Namdazu Rimserje Sajide, and the Bomber Link Pense. Shiramni de no Chogun Sara, Tonjon Dravelam Shage Yur. Rikam Sabem Indru Dambes, Remni Lamja, Lobro Chamajon, Desin Kuji, Devo Terzepe, Yonze Lama Jupraja Lloyd. Kundo Sije Tanyele, Tamgo Sam, Shagyon Zonshi. Shangchuk Himbe Lamkin Karmapa, Mishe Debe, Chive Tsuge Tu. Lasso, Tene, Nambalinje, Sangmalo, Samba Shangchuk Chodo, Tu Jeparambuch Sal Tabne, Tambe Chu, Seronang.
Khenpo Rinpoche wishes all the viewers welcome and asks all of you to begin with generating the precious body-mind, and with that as your basis, listen attentively to the explanations that are to be given.
Tanda Tachidan Ve Lamjinyamne, Ti Nane, Tekpachimbe, Lamjinyamne, Tadate, Soni Sonjuke, Lamjinyamne, Shachi Yimbare, Tene Ladrub de la Chatsumbe in a young Toma, Jamdro, Tene Semche. Tene Semepa Jilla Lo Jungwe Gone Sonam Jitsosa. What they think you have.
Now, in terms of Buddhism, from a general perspective, the general perspective being one which includes all divisions of Buddhism, there is the focus or emphasis on engaging in good and constructive deeds. Now, if we look in specific at Mahayana Buddhism, it's the case that all its practices, all its perspectives can be included within what is known as the two accumulations, the accumulation of merit or meritorious deeds, and the accumulation, as it were, of wisdom. So Mahayana Buddhism is very much about conjoining the two efforts with the aim to accumulate merit, constructive, meritorious deeds, and efforts made with respect to developing so-called wisdom, namely a mindset that gradually awakens to the Buddha within, as it were. And if we look at the Guru Yoga that's explained in this series of lectures, this is what applies. If we look at the first of the two accumulations, the so-called accumulation of merit, that includes the segments of the Guru Yoga that are about taking refuge in the three jewels, to generate the body-mind, and to engage in mind training by way of cultivating the so-called four immeasurables.
Tene nipa yeshi ji tso te dor du de tamba ten la du gungo de garan la am soba wa shuda sarva dharma soba wa shudo hun se ge dende yes tingo bi are
lasso then next there is the second of the two accumulations, that of so-called wisdom. In brief, that in terms of the Guru Yoga text starts with the so-called Svabhava mantra, which you have which you find just after the segment which is about cultivating the four immeasurables. The danta di chi sung e sung.
Yeah, that me tanda shu.
That's
Dene tandi thende kande chi sung bresana penna shi ta re rawa konchim la so shi ngo po thamche nangge rang lunga yisum ge dewe ngo po khandang khan na yang den nam
nangi kande sung sung
rang lu nga yik sum ge dewe tengo po khanda khan na yang ye dhamma ni ne rajin che madhu beche re sha song per na
naso per na
chunang to sharve dazuk tapch
so the Svabhava mantra is the first segment of the meditation, which is about the practitioner recollecting the true nature of all things. There are things in the outer world, mountains, mountain ranges, forests, and so on. There is an endless list of things found in the so-called outer world, the world system at large. And then there are so-called the inner perspective, which is about the body, speech, and mind in terms of each and every sentient being, and all what occurs within the context of the body, the speech, and the mind of all beings. Now, whatever one considers, whether one looks at outer things or inner things, the point the so-called Svabhava mantra makes, the point in terms of the practice here is to recollect, meditate on, or rest in, according to one's capacity, the fact that from the very beginning there isn't a single thing, whether inner or outer, that has a real reality. And the example given to illustrate this fact is that of the reflection of the moon in water.
Perna tan de daw chre song ge ba se chu nya tha chune ji ge nang la Dawe Sumni the Shardu Dawe Zukte Mangak Bashar Yorwa.
Ina Jöjö bara va?
Jöjö. Tati Jötu ni ne de tela Dawangu ke Tong Sarwa. Nangwa Samre Mato. Dawangu ke Tong Matang Nongwa Ni Chang Tade Yomartela.
Det är inte som ro tamangama det kan.
Dawangu
Dawangu tang.
Ngu Tong Matang
Nongwa det.
Nongwa Ni Tade Sandi Yomar. Tindu Nanzo Noa Kare Shana Yang Nondu Ning Rango Ranshin Tongpare Mato
Nongdu Nine. Nine.
Ranshin Tongpare. Tindu Tongbani Gam Sede Tony Sardu Zoe Jabadav Sawan Mare.
Lasso.
Rajin Chitong to Quad Gim.
So now if we continue with this example, that of the reflection of the moon in water. Think of a vessel that's filled with water to the brim and placed somewhere so that the moon in the sky would be reflected in the water which fills this vessel. Now, to begin with, give some thought to the reflection of the moon in that vessel. It appears without any obstruction. It simply is reflected without anything stopping or hindering the reflection of the moon in the water. There is nothing which interrupts the reflection for as long as the vessel is placed properly so that the moon can be reflected in the water of the vessel. The reflection will be seen. Nothing prevents that. However, from the very beginning, the image of the moon is reflected in the water. From that very moment, one would know that it's not the real moon in the vessel. It's just a reflection of it, an image. However, if one then goes on to consider or ask oneself whether or not the actual moon in the sky and the reflection of it are two completely separate things, one would find that this is also not the case. These two do not exist independently of one another. Even though the reflection of the moon isn't the real moon, and the real moon in the sky isn't the reflection of it really, which points to the fact that both the reflection of the moon and the actual moon in the sky are naturally empty of a real reality. And Khenpo Rinpoche explains, in terms of meditating on emptiness, which one may hear quite a bit about, this kind of meditation called meditation on emptiness, the basic understanding must be that emptiness is natural. The emptiness of a real reality, the absence of a real reality, the emptiness of the reflection of the moon in water, is a natural emptiness. And the absence of a real reality, the emptiness of what we see as the actual moon in the sky, is also the nature of the moon. It's a natural emptiness. So in terms of meditating on emptiness, it's important to really grasp the fact that emptiness is not something that the meditator generates, that his mindset produces in effect of his efforts in the meditation. What he meditates on, or what he tries to meditate on, what he trains in and practices, is so-called natural emptiness, the natural emptiness of each and every phenomenon.
Tapena Sabawa Sankende Ta Jirteba Simple Lamsinyam Cup Flactun to Mark Choga Duduchi in a young wall and they left the Yorba. They left you, then Rajin Chitombe Tonin Della.
Dune
Rajinchi, Gopokun.
Rangshinki, Tongpe, Kansung,
Tombe Toni Te
Lasso,
Coachene
Lasso.
Tell a loan your Jaljuti, Becky Shumim.
So, Tangporang Kansung, Mayigi.
Sabawa Sagende.
So, the Svabhava mantra is the segment of the meditation where natural emptiness is introduced, as it were. And the Svabhava mantra, is part of any meditation practice in general in Mahayana Buddhism, in particular in the Buddhist Tantras, where one could say that more or less each and every meditation practice, each and every sadhana includes the Svabhava mantra. And as was just explained, it is the segment of the meditation where the practitioner is to recollect the fact that each and every phenomenon from the very beginning is empty of a real reality. And it's on the basis of understanding this that the meditator then, the practitioner then, is to set his mind in this understanding. He is to rest in a measure of knowing, depending upon his capacity, natural emptiness. That's how any meditation practice regarding the main part of a meditation practice is to begin. So when one recites this mantra, point made is that one recollects what was just explained and then tries to place the mind, as it were, or set the mind within one level or another of knowledge which knows to some extent so-called natural emptiness.
Tene tati dan jes chambache. Tene ti je la taladu la manju yong tu. Kasang mundu nge ladu de la sabje de masong na nga raw ji ja yimba.
Lare.
Te yin de ti na ne tang go tre.
The next segment of the meditation text is the first of the 5 parts of this Guru Yoga, which Khenpo Rinpoche listed in the previous lecture.
Tangbot che yon tu tapena ngacho lama ge druga se de lama khanda de che drugu yorasana. That lama drebu top sembe lama che la sowa tap tele wang len tenzu gon de drugu yorwa
drebu top sar wang len la
sopa changma tende chi ge lama la migi yor.
Now, in terms of this kind of practice called the Guru Yoga, the first question may be what type of guru is to be meditated on here. Answer, it's the guru who has attained it's about the guru who has attained Buddha, the enlightened state. That level of a guru is at hand in terms of this kind of practice. So later on, it will be explained, there are various parts of the Guru Yoga, and one of them, for example, is the part where the meditator meditates that he receives or obtains one or many empowerments of the guru he meditates on, for example. So the point made here is that the guru one meditates on is to be the kind of guru who has attained Buddha, the enlightened state, the final goal.
Teche yung tu ta tendra lama te sure sana yang karmapa ronjong chabda rikdo je re tene kong sang je sarwa yimba te yang ta dev loju gene dubgo na ya dub tu gre kore ki tori gene che kamera song deva so gene hyuna yang hye yo deva chere la der khoran rang dorji song re khoran rang ki sharje nang re kusum gon do chor charwate
da digi gone yang mena de dan kaka
nim di gen sing de su gene
kom de
nga kusum gon do chorwa yin song do wa
now, in terms of this Guru Yoga, as you know, it's the Guru Yoga of the Gyalva Karmapa, the 16th Gyalva Karmapa, Rangjung Rinpoche Dorje. Now, it can be explained that he was the kind of guru who had attained the final goal, that of Buddha the enlightened state. This can be established by way of historical records, for example, as well as on the basis of what he himself says here in the text which he authored. There is a segment, or det kan man då gå till kusum går du gör ser du sikte in the jonge ändå.
Löj, chöyin jigme döder yon inror nä singe du chökroa.
So the segment of the text we are going to go through now, which follows upon the Svabhava mantra, the first sentence reads, out of the play of unborn Dharmadhatu, the domain free of mental fabrications. That's the first sentence. Here we can see that the author, the 16th Karmapa Rangjung Rinpoche Dorje, states that he has attained unborn Dhammadhatu. Keep in mind, this is a Guru Yoga where the focus of the meditation is the 16th Karmapa himself, and he is the author of the text. Thus, we can understand here that he himself, in terms of the first sentence that follows upon the Svabhava mantra, simply states one dimension or perspective of his realization, that of the Dharmakaya.
Taunati shaye condition nang yorsana, sik tangboti kablapana, chöyin jigme döder inrol ne sonye chidoga. Tene chö ji yin se yong de, chö sengente da yin kong de shube nang xin, xinang ne ju yi be chö te she. Yin sengente ge chö tamshe je rang yin te kande rao jire sena songdoga rang yin te. Rang yin te chö yin jigme. Jigme se yo tsik teke. Je nga nepate duje ji chö somdang chalware singwe zonang do jo yin je me se
So the very first word following upon the Svabhava mantra is in Tibetan Chöying, Dharmadhatu in Sanskrit. Now, you have the Tibetan translation of Dharmadhatu, Chö Ying. The Tibetan translation has the same structure as the original Sanskrit, Dharmadhatu. Dharma is one word and dhatu is another word. The two are conjoined and thus turned into a name which points to something. here what's pointed to is the Dharmakaya and what the Dharmakaya is about. You have the Sanskrit word Dharma, translated as Chö in Tibetan. There are various English translations of this word. The most common one is phenomena. Here one is to understand this word in plural, not singular. It's a reference to all phenomena, all things, both outer and inner, as we talked a bit about earlier. And the Tibetan word ying is a translation of the Sanskrit word dhatu. And here it takes the meaning of nature. So the question is, what is the nature of all those phenomena, both inner and outer? What are they nature-wise? The answer is given in the context of the next word in the Tibetan. It comes prior to the word dharmadhatu in the English. It's the Tibetan word kyeme, short for kevamepa, which means unborn. And that word explains how all phenomena, both inner and outer, in fact are empty. Or rather, it answers the question, well, what is this true nature of these things, all phenomena, both inner and outer? Well, the true nature, or their true nature, is explained by the adjective unborn, by way of which it is pointed to that in nature-wise, one could say, all phenomena, both inner and outer, are unborn in that none of them, nature-wise, in terms of their true nature, none of them has the characteristics which characterize worldly phenomena. Worldly phenomena are characterized by that at a specific point in time they emerge or arise, then they last for a period of time, the lifespan of the phenomenon in question, at the end of which they disappear and are no more. These three characteristics, emerging or arising, having a limited lifespan and then disappearing, these three characteristics are not applicable, do not obtain with respect to the true nature of things or phenomena. They are unborn. They have never arisen, truly. One can't find their original birth moment, as it were, and pinpoint that, nor can one find that with respect to their nature there is a limited lifespan at the end of which that nature disappears. Hence, the adjective unborn explains what the true nature of all phenomena is.
Penda laser ke la datu singete la per chun juri yonde pena ta den chipar halam rog yare meng namra menda wa truth song twa kam se re se sabun se ota tendeke rajin se o tendeke den truth se na ne
Now, in terms of the Sanskrit word dhatu, translated in this context, in the Tibetan translation, as yin, one should know that the Sanskrit word dhatu takes a number of meanings. There are a few perspectives in terms of what it can mean in different contexts. In some contexts, it's a reference to a specific domain, in other, to a specific type or species, in others, it's a reference to the dhatu in question, in that context, be acting as the cause for the arising of something else, and in other contexts, the word dhatu takes the meaning of nature, and that's the meaning applicable here, in the context of the Sanskrit word dharmadhatu. Here, dhatu takes the meaning of nature, and it's translated with the word yin in the Tibetan translation.
Tatong de song. Yin Jigme Rinpoche song. Chödrag senkente penna jewa nepa ngakpasen ngaraso namjan de khanka chöpar la penna namto ge chöpayor nyamong ge chöpayor
namto ge chöpadanchik
nyamong ge chöpadan ni
nyamong ge chöpadan ni
lege chöpa
Legi tröpadan.
Sum.
Alltså?
Chöyin ten des sum ka ke chöpe yul sawan mare saba ranjin ji tong ba yimba tene ten ke yor.
The next word in the text is Jigme Rinpoche, free of mental fabrications. There is the statement that the unborn Dharmadhatu is a domain free of mental fabrications. Now, what does this mean in terms of some more details? Well, in general, it's the same as was just explained in brief, namely that phenomena, in terms of their original or true nature, the characteristics or the phases of arising, having a lifespan, and then ceasing do not obtain. In fact, the idea or the notion of something arising, having a certain length in terms or a certain duration in terms of a lifespan and then ceasing, these three notions, as it were, are mental constructs which the worldly mindset attributes to what it knows in terms of worldly individuals who have not yet seen or realized natural emptiness. Now, in terms of mental constructs, there are three basic types of them. There are mental constructs in the context of so-called object-oriented knowledge. Knowledge which focuses upon one or many objects while experiencing a separation between the mind which knows and the object that's known. And here you have two phases. That's a reference to conceptual object orientation and non-conceptual object orientation. Both are mental constructs. Then there is the second of the three basic types of mental constructs, which happen, or that happen, within the framework of so-called afflictive obscuring states. And then you have the third type of mental constructs in the context of karma or actions. So there are many types of mental constructs. And here it's pointed out that unborn Dharmadhatu is a domain free of any kind of mental construct or mental fabrication. So if one looks at the various kinds of mental fabrications or mental constructs, one will find that there is a wide range of them, and within this range of all of them, some are very subtle and some are very coarse or obvious.
Namto samtang nyamung pe namto nila charayo.
Namto samtang.
Nyamung pe namto nila.
So, if one, for example, namto sam kan det ikke koke det.
Namto samte nge chapur kon tongo sambarabsha.
If one looks at the thought, I'm going to have a cup of tea. It's just a thought. And if one compares that with still just a thought, but in the context of an afflictive obscuring state, passion, aggression, whatever the afflictive obscuring state may be, there is quite a difference in terms of the strength or the force to the mental fabrication when one compares the two. The simple thought, I'm going to make myself a cup of tea because I want to have a cup of tea right now, is very straightforward and simple. There is not a great force to this thought, whereas a thought where the driving force is an afflictive obscuring state is much more coarse the previous one, a simple thought about having a cup of tea, is much more subtle. That's quite evident.
That in Chöyin Jewa Me Patang, Zhe Patang Chalwe Ying, Chöku Gongpa, Wendu Churye Songre.
So, by way of the first sentence of the meditation text, following the Svabhava mantra, the late Karmapa states that he has attained the final goal, that of the Dharmakaya, stating the following. The text reads, out of the play of unborn Dharmadhatu, the domain free of mental fabrications, referring to his own mindset, which is one of Buddha the enlightened state. That's how one should understand that sentence.
Teil penna Karmapa Rinpoche Jigme Rinpoche Mare Kunching Mangbo Jig Song on the Chokungan to Char Song, Yang Song.
Now, the late Karmapa, the 16th Karmapa, Rangjung Rinpoche Dorje, was not the only Karmapa in that line of reincarnated masters who stated this. Previous Karmapas in this line of reincarnation have stated the same regarding their own person, as it were.
Taganashin Karmapa Sammaimba Jev Tamba Mambuchik Song Davis Sanje Yempin number 2
DP
Sanje Yempin number
Di India Ravada Kalpamambu
Ya Kalpamambu
DP Sanje Kandre
Yempin number
Champagne Namrol.
To sang yes in the song.
One also finds statements in various Buddhist historical records in the context of Tibetan Buddhism and otherwise as well, where Buddhist masters of old have stated that many eons ago, many kalpas ago, the individual today known as Karmapa attained Buddha the enlightened state and was known as the Buddha Shenpen Namrol.
That is Ingrol ne Yamen Nande Yinji Nangnik Le Sondoa. Sing Mention de Dene Chuku Rolbal Sharwe Loncula Matatin Nayungu.
Then there is the next phrase in the text, which says, well, I have to read it from the beginning, because out of the play of unborn Dharmadhatu, out of the play must be connected to phrase number 2 in terms of the text. So, out of the play of unborn Dharmadhatu, the domain free of mental fabrications, Nada, the sacred sign of indestructibility, unveils itself. Now, the second phrase, which is about the fact that nada, the sacred sign of indestructibility, unveils itself within unborn Dharmadhatu, or by way of the play of unborn Dharmadhatu, however one wants to phrase it, is a reference to the Sambhogakaya perspective. That the Sambhogakaya perspective, or that dimension of Buddha, the enlightened state, emerges out because of the play of unborn Dharmadhatu, or because of the actions, as it were, of unborn Dharmadhatu, the domain free of mental fabrications, actions with the single goal of benefiting others. And here it's in the context of the Sambhogakaya dimension.
That teaching on to Penai. In roll, say, in roll, get it, Chukun Hone, Sharway Bache, that the Kandechi or Sana.
So the play of unborn Dharmadhatu makes for the manifestations that manifest within this specific dimension, that of the so-called Sambhogakaya.
Yamme nande yinye ngangile sede yamme sede ta menjurwe tanjin. Kankiyang yamjik menuwe tanjin chapter.
What does the adjective, or rather the word, just indestructibility refer to? Well, it's to be understood as changelessness. This dimension, that of the Sambhogakaya world and its manifestations, is changeless, is not subject to change in terms of there being the possibility of a change, or a possibility of change for the worse, for example, namely a decline in terms of the manifestations and so on. The key word here is indestructibility. In terms of the actions within the Sambhogakaya world, change is not an issue. The actions in terms of benefiting are constant and therefore changeless.
Ta jurwa mepate tharasana tapana longchu zoku tere longku nangwatiyang penna dhenji chane jurwa mepa chukure nangwe chane
is chuku yin bara
choku yin bare
no
nangwe chane longku ngepa ngaden songare.
Now, so nada is a sacred symbol which embodies indestructibility or changelessness, however one wants to phrase it, a reference to the fact that the world we know as the Sambhogakaya, or that dimension, and the manifestations within it originate with unborn Dharmadhatu, are the manifestations of unborn Dharmadhatu. Therefore, the world we know by the name Sambhogakaya, or that dimension, isn't subject to change. Then there is the perspective of the manifestations within this world or this dimension. There are 5 perspectives here as to these manifestations.
Ja, det kissar.
Lasso.
Longjözo kutela tasula nangi yorasana.
Ungne pangaden.
Kor takpatela nangi yore nangdu takpa yundu nangdevare.
Tendi gyun mi che pate nangwaden so gyun mi che pate ngaden gitranka nangla dugore kande
re nongwate gyun mi che pate gyun mi che pa ke tongwate kande chi yorasana tranka ngatang dempa songre perna longku kutela chen songbo sumju zanyi na peje songbo yekyu che bachi durja takpate ke thongge yore.
Lasso.
Tigyun mi cheba.
De dang putsi go ergo.
Dang potere.
Lasso nipa.
Tene longku de khang du yorsana dagbu shin la se ranan de tube dagbu shin kam tala yore.
Pa loma gi rangnang kogore sangje di gi rangnang kogore.
Ta nikka gi humarwa.
Nicha.
Tene 코르스 통구여서나 사주 선반 바식 통구여. tene chö kartu tögü yarısına tek başım bir chö başik tögü.
Şipare.
İcibare.
Napa.
Tü kandeci yarısına tü takpare ko jön içebare. Tende tang dambachi tela songar longku.
So we have the manifestation perspective of the Sambhogakaya, and as has been explained earlier, these manifestations are experienced, seen, perceived, cognized, however one wants to phrase it, by practitioners who have attained a level of pure vision. And in terms of the manifestations as to the Sambhogakaya world, there are 5 specific characteristics. In general, all these manifestations manifest or occur uninterruptedly with the goal of benefiting those who have attained pure vision so that they can achieve higher levels of realization and in the end attain Buddha, the enlightened state. Now, the first of the 5 specific characteristics here is that any Sambhogakaya manifestation is known by way of the 32 and 80 major and minor marks of perfection. And these marks of perfection are seen by practitioners who have achieved various levels of so-called pure vision, and they would therefore know, when encountering a Sambhogakaya manifestation as a spiritual guide, that this spiritual guide is a guru or spiritual guide who has attained Buddha the enlightened state, so a guru of the highest level. The second specific characteristic is that these manifestations manifest in so-called pure world systems. World systems inhabited by individuals who have attained various levels of pure vision, and world system referred to as pure, perhaps primarily because the guides, the spiritual guides or the gurus found in those pure world systems are gurus of the highest level, Buddhas. And both the pure world system and these manifestations of various Buddhas in them originate with unborn Dharmadhatu. Then we have number 3 in terms of the 5 specific characteristics, which is a reference to the fact that the disciples of these Buddhas in those pure world systems are all on one or the other of the 10 Bodhisattva bhumis. Hence, they are referred to as individuals who've attained so-called pure vision, because they have attained these levels of realization. Then we have number 4 of the 5, which is that the Buddha Dharma taught in those pure world systems by these Buddhas is always the Mahayana Dharma. And then there is number 5, which is the time frame. As to those Buddhas and those pure world systems, well, both the Buddhas and the world systems, the pure world systems, are constant. As was pointed out earlier, there is the nature of changelessness. So there are no interruptions in terms of those guides and those world systems.
That Hindravate Lungkun number Chintala, the Paksho Chinresi Sigiote, the Young Karmapa
Chikre.
Yeah. Paksho Chinresi number 2 by Yimbane, then Guru Rinpoche, Chodrag Songzing Gambotan, Tanquinji, Tomnagic Song on the yacht.
Now, in terms of the Karmapa, who is the central theme of this Guru Yoga, one may then ask oneself what his manifestation would be in terms of this level, the level of a pure world system. Well, there he manifests as the noble and supreme Avalokiteshvara, Chenresi in Tibetan. And this has been explained by many masters of old. One example is Guru Rinpoche, another, one of Tibet's Buddhist kings, Songtsen Gampo, also a Buddhist master, and many others.
Oh yeah, that he jela, that kapton delangara some big paten, gamsate, ngaranso kalbala, pena chokuning answer mato, na loncho kuning answer in jet to cover me, tang aranso ge. One question to Churvate, Yawa Kamapare, Ta kong ku sal tep tung te sumare. Ta pena kam barong jong rik dorje inanda, kam thaya dorje inanda. Ta zukpu zoyib menda hare ma to tenje ngo chik pa chik chang re. Di du turkun namba chint.
Now, in terms of us, who have not yet attained pure vision, and we have certainly not attained a realization of the Dharmakaya yet. Therefore, we do not have the karmic fortune to encounter the Buddhas who reside in various pure world systems. So, for us, in terms of our path and in terms of this meditation, we bring to mind either the 16th Karmapa, Rangjung Rikpe Dorje, or the present Karmapa, Trinletaye Dorje. It doesn't much matter. Both are appearances of the same, namely appearances originating with the play of unborn Dharmadhatu at the level of the so-called Nirmanakaya, the level where we, regular mortals as it were, do have the karmic fortune to connect with this manifestation, one of the many manifestations within this dimension, that of the Nirmanakaya.
Ta di ladu kalun de song doa dongkar kun chetin ja u tang arang den denjen nam kan de la dan de peche sig sul ne ten yon de ranlu tamal ba che yedam ra um magam ba che tamal tu ja rang gen denjen nam kan de la dene chepen go bo pa du me ba pa bo kun du song be chetin da u sar ta
Lasso?
Ti ten la yitro sentri pema dave ten se yi tu wa yitro ba sena ten je ba sam ji pa ti yi ti sho lo shon ro ve yitro so ma de singe je je tek be tri ti ten de pema tan dave den la so ma de
So Daddy Trulpeko.
Yeah, Trulpeko.
Next, in the meditation text, there is a description of the meditation here in the context of the Nirmanakaya dimension of Buddha, the enlightened state, the dimension which we, ordinary mortals, have the karmic fortune to be able to come in contact with. And so the text here reads as follows. Within these bounds, in front of me, in space, amidst oceans of clouds of offerings, like those of Samantabhadra, atop an enticingly beautiful seat made up of a lotus and a moon disk, upheld by lions, the Guru is seated. Now, Yeah. So here, in terms of the meditation, if one begins by looking at one's own person, the practitioner, one does not meditate that one appears in the shape and form of a so-called yidam. One is one's ordinary self here. And in front of one, in space, one meditates, one visualizes boundless clouds of offerings, like those of Samantabhadra. One brings these vast clouds of offerings clearly to mind. Next, one focuses on the seat where the Guru is seated, and the seat is enticingly beautiful, the text says in its description of it, going on to list the various parts of the seat, that there is, to begin with, a throne-like structure supported by 8 lions, or upheld by 8 lions, and on top of this throne-like seat, there is a lotus flower on top of which there is a moon disk. And the Guru is seated atop this enticingly beautiful seat.
That Taku Kandash Saltabu Yorsana Kechi Tenzo Yalwa Wongbone said Rotin.
And the text reads next, describing the Guru who is seated on the seat that was just described, as it were. The text says, the Guru, the union of the 3 roots, appears atop this enticingly beautiful seat in an instant of recollection.
That is
to say, in an instant of recollection of him. So, in an instant, in an instant means immediately. So it's not as if one sits there and for a period of time tries to generate the shape and form of the Guru, etc. In an instant, immediately, he appears seated atop this seat. And one should keep in mind, or one should know, that the Guru is the union of the 3 roots.
And then the dead like Gajik Tinzos and Deyang Nazo, Flat Lama Suki, Yona Yang, Tiji Jigme Rinpoche, they say. Then Munjung Ache said,
Munjung Naki.
That Jack Manguyo, David Nane, the patient Chidam Turn the Yawa Yid of Jay Yunguyo, Mang Chewa. You said into none that you was soon that was sung.
Now, in terms of any meditation, there is what the mind focuses upon, the central theme, the object of meditation, as it were. And in the context of a Guru Yoga, it's then the Guru, obviously. Now, in terms of how the practitioner brings that clearly to mind. In this case, the image of the Guru, as was just explained, it's in an instant, immediately. However, one should know that this is not the one and only way of doing this. There are about 5 different, or principle, not 5, so sorry, 4 principal different ways of sort of generating the central theme of the meditation, the primary object of meditation, whatever the object of meditation is. One of them, for example, is a more elaborate way of generating the object of meditation in 5 stages. And so on. So there are 4, according to some, principal ways of how the object of meditation is brought clearly to mind. And one of them is like here, instant recollection of the object of meditation. There is also a 3-fold categorization into 3 ways of doing this. However, here it's about instant recollection of the object of meditation.
Not so. Zasam dubeku, zawasum segende, not Gadnamungo, son de.
One may then wonder about the 3 routes. Well, there is frequent mentioning of the so-called 3 routes, in particular in the Buddhist tantras. Now, the root or origin of spiritual influence is the Lama, the Guru, the first of the 3.
Rang semte la dungar chi na ya kap the du dungar ta pha shin teng one thane chi chö chi drop go do tempe samba ra ju lep to du la me sin ra tham chi ju yung ge ro.
Now, an example of this kind of spiritual influence would be the following. Consider a guru, a lama, of the highest realization, at least of a very high level, a supreme master, as it were. A person or a practitioner, when meeting with his master, may, in effect of the meeting with the master, in terms of having been perturbed, suffered for various reasons, prior to seeing the master, when seeing the master, the troubles within subside, are pacified, one has the impression of. And there may be a thought of, I should apply myself to the practice of the Buddhist path. Now, this is an example of how the spiritual influence of a supreme master may have on a person meeting that master. So it's a sign of that this person who meets with this master has to, at least a very slight extent, come in contact with the spiritual influence of the Supreme Master in question. Now, the fact that one, during the meeting, starts to have thoughts about entering and practicing this path is a clear sign of the spiritual influence of the master one has met with.
Yes, yes. That tigel yamashawache. The mutune dumna sinlap the masona, Jule, Shukcher, Cherin, the Nachupachi Chagrava.
Now, if this person do not then end his experience here, meaning he doesn't go on with or he doesn't follow up as to this thought he had during the meeting, well, then not much in terms of the person making progress as to enlightenment would occur, whereas a person who then acts on that spiritual influence, as that person applies himself to the path, he will, in effect of it, gradually become more and more open to the spiritual influence of the master who guides him, and therefore be able to make progress on the path. There will be a change as to his mindset. Then we have the second of the three roots, which is the root or origin of so-called siddhis or accomplishments in the context of the Buddhist path, the path to enlightenment. And here the root is the yidam.
Penna yidam gdruvala jordu tumong ngudrup tam mangko ji jun songare pedu ji shuba ina tserin rundrone chewa mebe ngudrup tobandro.
So there are many kind of so-called siddhis, siddhi being a Sanskrit word, approximately meaning accomplishment or achievement in English. Now there are many types of them. The list is very long. There are two basic categories and so on. An easy to understand example would be a practitioner being able, by way of his efforts on the path, to extend the length of his lifespan and perhaps finally achieve what is known as the state of deathlessness. That is to say, a level of realization where the individual is no longer subject to birth and death as we know it. Then there is the highest kind of accomplishment or siddhi, which would be to attain the Dharmakaya by way of the yidam practice, at which point the practitioner then embodies the nature of the yidam. He has attained the true nature of the yidam. He has attained the Dharmakaya. Then there is the third of the three roots, which is the root of or origin of enlightened action. And that's to be understood in the context of so-called dakas and dakinis, who then are the origin of enlightened action.
Penna ka ro sekende ju dorje kurne korang tandang mate ka sekende Chewing Jewa me but the chair.
Chewing Kime.
Jimmy the chair. Draw the Jewa me be chewing de. Sheja Tomja Chapitan Sungsha.
So, Daka and Dakini are two Sanskrit words, Pawo and Khandro in Tibetan. You have the Tibetan word Khandro. Ka means space, and Dro means pervade here, actually. It's a reference to the Dharmadhatu, the Chöying, the domain of the true nature of all phenomena, both inner and outer. As is explained in, for example, an explanatory commentary to the Hevajra Tantra. The Tibetan name of this commentary is, in the Tibetan translation, Dorje Gur. So, Kadi Chöyingre, Drodi. So, if we take the Tibetan word Khandro, Ka means space, and Dro means to pervade or to be ever present. Ka is a reference to the Dharmadhatu, that boundless domain comparable to space. Space is unending, has no boundaries. So space is to be understood as a description of the Dharmadhatu. And then there is the word dro or drowa in Tibetan, which can mean to go. Here it means to pervade. So it's about the fact that the Dharmadhatu pervades, it goes everywhere, as it were. It pervades each and every phenomenon in terms of it being the true nature of each and every phenomenon. And in the text authored by the late Karmapa, he points to that he embodies the three roots. Now, the Karmapa himself, in terms of the meditation, is of a benevolent expression and a peaceful and benevolent expression. And he wears the so-called black crown. Tadi yige korandango mari.
Yeah.
So, in terms of the segment of the text which describes this, that segment reads as follows: foremost among the victorious ones, at peace, with a benevolent expression and radiant as the autumn moon, you wear the black crown, the sight of which brings liberation and which radiates a golden light, I should say, and it is made with strands of hair from 100,000 million dakinis.
Lasso that rite shagi ti lo ju de san yi shu yong.
So that's all for today. In the next session, Khenpo Rinpoche will give some explanations as to the history of the black crown. He will begin the next lecture by giving some explanations as to the background and history of the black crown.
Lasso Sunam de Tom Jezebani, Tom Nebe, Janam Pamjete, Jagana, Jebalo, Sibyl, Solendo, Wide,